Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Are You Listening with Abigail. It's really weird because I'm recording this on a Monday. I was just trying to get ahead of time. I think sometimes I love having Thursdays as my recording day, but then I have a lot of other stuff sometimes to do. So yeah, it's a Monday afternoon. I had clients this morning and it's a real rainy, bit of a miserable day to be honest. So I thought let's record a podcast episode. Let's get it done. I'm finally over my illness, even though I had a migraine last week, and I feel like that migraine now. I don't have a migraine now, but I keep getting like headachy and stuff, and I just feel like I'm at the tail end of that illness. So yeah, if anyone else has had that, it honestly absolutely took me out. So, how is everyone? I hope everyone's having a lovely Sunday. I just want to say thank you to everyone who messaged me about getting a dog when the episode went live last week. Very, very exciting. We're very excited. When I'm recording this, he will be coming home next week. So, yes, I'm very, very excited. Slowly, but surely starting to get things together. You don't realise how much you need for a puppy. Like, there's still other things. And I still need to go down to the vets and just like book him in for his first little check when he comes home. There is so much that you don't realise that you need. And luckily, my mum had so much to give us from when Winnie was a puppy and from like my family dog was a puppy, which has been great. So it means like we are inheriting a lot of things, especially while he's going through like teething stage and stuff. I was like, if we buy all brand new stuff and he rips it apart, I'm going to be devastated. So she has absolutely saved us on that one. I wanted to record this episode probably like when I first started talking about or planning to rebrand this podcast. The topic I'm going to talk about is something that was, and I'm going to need everyone to just be a little bit patient with me because I want to make sure like I word everything right. I knew it would be a topic that I'm going to have to talk about because it's something very, very relevant to, I'm going to say everyone's lives. I'm going to say everyone, whether it's yourself or someone else. And it didn't feel at the time right to talk about it at the start of this podcast. Even up to the point now, we're on episode what, 14? That's like 14 weeks of episodes. And only now am I like, okay, maybe we'll talk about this. So yeah, I'm trying to not be really, really cryptic, but I'm just trying to give a little bit of background. I obviously, the reason for this podcast is I talk to a lot of women all day, every day. And I want to bring conversations to the table that I'm basically having with these women that aren't spoken about enough. And what is the one topic, if someone says to you, it's not spoken about enough, what is it that comes to mind? No one's going to answer me because obviously you're just listening to me, but obviously it's mental health. Everyone and their dog were like, it's not spoken about enough. As much as mental health has become a little bit more of a norm, and in obviously mainstream media and just everyday life, it is a lot more relevant and it's a lot more spoken about. It still is not spoken about or understood, I don't think, to the level that it should be. So yeah, mental health is like a really big conversation I have with my clients. But obviously, there is still a bit of a stigma when it comes to mental health, and there is a bit of a weirdness when it comes to it, or a bit of an uncomfortable feeling when people go to talk about it. So, because of that, it didn't feel right to kind of start with something like that. And when I'm going to talk about mental health, and I want to do a few different kind of topics and episodes on mental health. So I think mental health is too broad to do as a topic. So I think what I'm probably going to do is for now I'm going to do this episode, which will kind of be my experience with mental health, and then I don't know, maybe I'll do a part 2 of something else to do with mental health and things like that. So I just feel like there's probably going to be a few of these episodes, which is very important, and I don't want to cram it in really, really quickly so that it just feels like a rushed topic, because it is something that's very, very relevant to my life, and I think it's something that I feel very passionate about, I feel very strongly about, and the I need to be brave to talk about it on the podcast, although it's very vulnerable of me. So, like I said, please be patient. So, a bit of context, I was never an anxious kid at all. If anything, I was probably overconfident, very, very assured of myself from a very young age. My mum will joke about, like, I was a very, very confident, like, even baby, toddler, child, kid, like, early teenager, like, I was very, very confident. But I would say that looking back now at, I'm almost 30, I would say there were signs that, I'm just going to say, mental health, or my mental health was probably going to be a problem at some point with the way I used to. I don't want to say used to, because I am still that person, but the way I was, or my personality, or the way I'm wired, let's say. So, for example, over analysing. I've always labelled myself, and others have always labelled me, as a perfectionist, and I have a very, very deep need to control every tiny little thing. And like I said, that's been relevant. I think it's prevalent. Is prevalent a word? We're going to go with it. Relevant. That has been obvious throughout my whole life that I've always been like that. But what I will say is that, as you get older, you realise that this control that you feel like you have over your life, you have to let go of that a little bit, because you can't control everything. Like, you have work, bills, relationships, your health, and suddenly you're trying to manage a million things that can't actually be controlled. You can't control most of them things. You can to an extent, but most things are out of your control. So I've always just said, like, I'm an overthinker, and I am, but I think more lately I've realised it's not just overthinking, it's anxiety that I have just labelled as overthinking. I overthink, which isn't correct, really. You overthink because of the anxiety, and that's what I do. I think the contrast of my younger self, which was confident, carefree, in control, with who I am now, who feels more aware of everything. Like, I just feel now, as you get older, you're just a lot more aware of things that can go wrong, and I feel like there's a lot more for me to be anxious about. And I know that this seems really obvious. You get older, you have more responsibilities. It kind of feels a bit like, Abigail, like, obviously you're never going to be able to control everything, and like, life will life the way it lifes. You can't control everything about it. I know that. I know, and it seems really obvious. But I think in my head, it's not obvious, because I really thought I'd always be able to control everything. And I think I always had the opinion that, like, anxiety, or I don't know, I feel like you realise that it doesn't always have to start from trauma. It literally could just be like life accumulating, and life getting busy, and life getting more serious. Yeah, I don't know. I think the one thing with anxiety, and listen, I've never been diagnosed with an anxiety disorder. I've got family members that have got anxiety disorders and stuff, and I have never been diagnosed with a disorder. I do think if I was to be analysed, there probably would be some form of an anxiety disorder. I wholeheartedly believe in that. And I think it's a weird one to think everyone kind of viewed me as the not the strong one, because that sounds really cringe, but like the one that was fine. And it's like, actually, as I get older, I'm like, God, like, I can't tell if I actually was fine or I was just holding things together because I wasn't in a place to be able to let that get the better of me, because there was too much there was too much going on at the time that needed more, that it needed more insightfulness from other people rather than on me, if that makes sense. And I'm going to try and make this not sound too cryptic. I'm going to get to everything, I promise. But I do think a lot of my anxiety is in the way that I'm wired in trying to control an uncontrollable world or an uncontrollable life. I've always tried to manage my life like it's a list and I can just check things off, which is very, very me. And if I do everything right, then nothing bad can happen. But sadly, life doesn't care about your to-do list, and shit happens, regardless of how you try and control it. I think, I don't want to say my job has given me anxiety, or at least really fed into it and put people off starting a business or getting into lashes or whatever you want to do. But it has, and my job, it gives me really long stretches of silence when I'm not with clients. I'm alone a lot of the time because I'm running a business solo. I do a lot of things by myself. So I do spend a lot of time on my own, which gives you time to think, which isn't always a good thing when you are anxious. I think that, you know, I could go hours in silence, which it sounds really peaceful. And you know what? It is really peaceful at times. I really love spending time on my own. But I do feel like it fuels the anxiety sometimes, especially when there's like a lot going on or there's a lot on my mind or there's like a lot that's happening. It it is the worst time for my anxiety. One part of my, and like I said, I've never been diagnosed, but I'm going to say my anxiety that has been it has been obvious for a while, but has got worse, I would say, in the last year to, I'd probably say 6 months, it's all of a sudden got worse, is my health anxiety. Now, I don't know how much to talk about all this sort of stuff on this podcast, and I'm going to talk to you guys as if like you're a friend. I'm finding it difficult to know how vulnerable to be on this podcast because I want to be vulnerable, but like, is there a line? I don't know. So please forgive me if I'm sounding cryptic or I'm not giving too much of an explanation, and maybe at some point I will talk more in depth about things. But going back to the health anxiety thing, I feel like health anxiety is such a specific kind of fear because it's coming from inside you. You can't just take space from your own body. So it's like if I was anxious about something else, which I am at times, I can kind of step away from that a little bit if needed and be like, I need to take some space, I need to do this, I need to do that. The thing I struggle with health anxiety is that I can't step away from it, and I am doing things to try and help it. I'm really, really working on it at the moment, or trying to really work on it while it's very, very relevant at the moment. But it is hard because it's like I can't step away from my body. And for anyone that kind of doesn't know what health anxiety is, although it sounds obvious, yes, I have always been a bit of a hypochondriac. There's a lot of people in my family that are hypochondriacs, but it's taken it to the next level that I didn't really even notice that I was doing at the beginning. That my partner would like note that things aren't normal that I do. So, for example, like I could be in a room full of people that I love, but my brain is somewhere else. Because one actual example of this is when we went to Mauritius, and it sounds so stupid when I say it out loud, which is why anxiety is so difficult, because it's like, in that part of your brain that you're being stupid. I was sat on the beach and literally like it was probably a red ant or something. When I say stung, it wasn't even stinging, like it felt like a tiny little like sting on my toe. I then spiral. So like my boyfriend's talking to me or he's looking at this and he's saying this. My brain goes into like, or my body goes into almost a shutdown mode and monitors that, because I'm like, I'm in a foreign country. I've just been stung by something. Should I be worried? Should I, what if it turns into this, and what if it's going to make me poorly? So now like, I've got that twinge in my head. Maybe that's to do with the sting. I'm getting really hot. I'm getting a headache. Like I'm getting really hot and sweaty and I feel a bit sick. Is that because of the sting? And I'm so unpresent. And I'm analysing and scanning and worrying, and I'm literally not really there. And it's so frustrating because I know I'm being irrational, but I can't stop it. I can't get myself out of that hole once I'm in it. It literally sounds ridiculous when I say it out loud, and I know that. Or, for example, we went to Turkey recently. I got a tiny little scratch from a cat. Now, I know this is a lot more serious. Had to go have a tetanus shot. I was then very health conscious for the week afterwards. Any feeling in my body, I'm like, I've got tetanus, this is it, I'm gonna die. Like, even to the point now, I had a cold last week. I keep getting like, I'm a bit headachy where I'm probably not 100% over it yet, and keep feeling nauseous. I'm like, right, I've got tetanus, this is it. Like, and I know it's not, and I know it sounds stupid. So yeah, I don't know. It's a weird one, because you can spiral so easily about it. And sometimes I'll say things to my partner and he'll actually laugh, and not in a way where he's laughing at me, but he'll think I'm joking, and I'm not joking. I'm not joking. So yeah, that's my current thing. That's my thing I'm really struggling with, I suppose, at the moment, and I'm really trying to like not let it take over. I've read a book. I'm really trying to like get really good at not seeking reassurance on it, and Googling and things like that, the things that I would always do, and scanning too much. It's just hard. So like, and you know what, I do think that like social media actually makes it worse sometimes, because you're literally scrolling through social media and it's like, these are the signs of this, or look out for this, and I'll literally be just scrolling my normal algorithm, and like next thing you know, I'm looking for signs of like something I've never thought of before. But I've realised, anxiety isn't a weakness. Like, I know that, and I tell people that all the time. My brain is literally just trying to keep me safe. It just doesn't know the difference between danger and like actually something to worry about, and overthinking. So like, that's my open and honest anxiety issue for now. The thing is like, mental health is everywhere now. I think it's always been everywhere, but now we actually are making sense of it and taking the time to understand it, which is amazing for awareness. But sometimes it's really overwhelming when you're in it or you feel anxious yourself. I have a lot of loved ones who struggle. I'm going to try not to get upset. This was one of the reasons that I delayed talking about mental health, because it's hard. But yeah, I'm surrounded by a lot of people that struggle with their mental health, in my family specifically, and loved ones, more than I think you ever really expect to struggle. And I think it's really hard to support those people when you also have your own things going on that you're worried about. And even with clients, like, I can tell when clients are struggling. And it's really hard sometimes when I'm having like a hard time and someone comes in and wants to talk. And I don't want to sound ungrateful, because I feel very, very grateful that people want to talk about things with me. And, you know, a lot of the time I'm a stranger to them, or someone that's so out of their circle, and they want to talk about these things with me. And I'm very grateful for that. But sometimes it's like when you're in your own head already, the capacity is very small. So I do think balancing it is hard. And I think your own compassion for other people can just turn into responsibility. Like, I definitely take on other people's emotions as if they're mine to fix, and it's hard. Like, you want to be like the calm one for everyone else when your mind isn't calm. Sorry, I'm fine, by the way, anyone listening. Like, I knew going into this, I felt quite anxious kind of like coming into this and like talking about this, and I feel good talking about it, but I don't know, it will help people, but it's hard. um I I was always the first person to tell someone to have therapy, to go to the doctors, to go on meds and things like that. But when it's yourself, I think it's so easy to be like, I know it's the right thing for other people to do it, but you don't want to do it yourself. Like, I've had therapy, and I did therapy for a few months this year, and genuinely at the time I needed it at the time that I did it, and I would still sit and say, I think therapy is one of the most amazing things, and there are so many different types. Again, like I said, family members have tried the obvious choices of therapy, like CBT, things like that, and it hasn't worked for them. And you do have to do what works for you, but there are so many different types of therapy, and I will tell everyone to try therapy. And I know that a lot of people are like, I don't know where to start, I don't know what to do. Like, I literally, me and other loved ones, have used BetterHelp, where you are linked with a therapist. I've had it before where I haven't got on with the therapist, you literally just change it, and then I found one that was so amazing and really helped. So I do think that, you know, learning to set emotional boundaries with people isn't cold, it's necessary sometimes. Like, if you are feeling in a hard place, you can still support people without having to take their problems on, although it's a hard balance. I appreciate that. It is necessary sometimes. You do have to look after yourself first sometimes. I just think, looking at situations that have happened in my life, and I look at other people and I'm thinking, like, if they hadn't have put themselves first in them situations, things would have been very, very different, I think. So it is important to do that, as well as obviously supporting others, and I appreciate that. Going back to the control thing, control's always made me feel very safe, but I also know that it fuels anxiety and it makes it worse. And with the health anxiety, as an example, I have to at some point give in to the fact that I can't control my health. I can't control other people's health. Obviously, you can, to an extent, of looking after yourself, eating well, blah, 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 getting things checked when necessary. But you can't control what's going to happen. And you can't live in fear that these things are going to happen. Because if they did happen, you'll just look back and be like, well, what, I just sat and worried about these things for years and years and years for them to happen anyway. What good did that do? So I'm slowly learning to try and let go. Like I said, I did therapy. Exercise helps massively. And just noticing when my brain is spiraling instead of judging it or trying to fuel it, sit with it and actually think, right, is this my brain just trying to keep me safe right now? Or is it actually something I need to worry about? And as you get older, you have to accept that you can't predict everything. You can't control life. And I used to think that peace came from, I say used to, I still do at the moment. I feel like peace comes from controlling everything. But I actually think peace comes from not needing to, like life, if you controlled everything, there's so many things in my life that wouldn't have happened if I managed to control it. Um, yeah, I just think like, I think this is the thing with anxiety and mental health is that most of the time, the person can see both sides, right? Like, I can easily see when I'm being ridiculous and worrying about something that I shouldn't be worrying about. But does that stop me worrying? No, it doesn't help because my brain is already going at it. So, yeah, I think I'm going to leave it there for this episode. I will, whether I might even just do the second part of this episode next week because I just feel like it is important and I don't want to keep putting harder topics off because it's not necessary. But if you can relate to any of this, if your brain is always on or you just feel like you're living in what if or anxiety, just know that it's not just you. There's so many people once you open up that are like, I'm the same. Even a few clients, and not even like very close clients. Recently I've spoke about my health anxiety, and it turns out there's a few of my clients that are the same and feel the same and worry about the same things as me, which, I mean, it makes you feel better, realistically. You're just human at the end of the day. I know I care really deeply, and that's a curse and a gift that also fuels the anxiety. So, yeah, if you listen to this, thank you for letting me talk about something that's a bit heavier, I suppose, than other topics I've done. Um, I do want to make a few more episodes, and maybe I will continue just to make like another episode directly after this because I just think it seems silly for me to just like start it and then talk about something else. So yeah, I thank you everyone for listening. If you're listening on Spotify, please, please, please review, follow, subscribe, whatever the buttons are. Send this to someone that you think it would help. If you're watching this on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe. I've had some amazing comments recently and I really, really thank everyone for listening. I love making episodes, even if they are hard like this. It's healing in a way, I suppose, and if it can help even one person, I massively, massively, yeah, I just love it. I don't even have the words, but I just love it. So yeah, thanks everyone. I will see you all in my next episode. Bye guys.